earlier today as I put this together about Romeo Doubs. If I can find it, we'll just jump right into it. So the Steelers,
I just caught the ball.
Steelers are inquiring about Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs, or at least they have. Okay, a Rodgers reunion on the horizon? Question mark. All right. So here is basically the tweet that went out earlier today. It says, the NFL trade rumor mill is buzzing. The Green Bay Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs at the center of speculation. On May 8, 2025, Andrew Filipponi of the Pony Express reported on X that the Pittsburgh Steelers have inquired about acquiring Doubs. This comes amid expectations that quarterback Aaron Rodgers, a free agent after leaving the New York Jets, will sign with the Steelers, potentially setting the stage for a reunion with Doubs. Now, look, I know a lot of people are trying to dunk on this guy and say it's not true. A lot of people were just saying that about Romeo Doubs potentially being involved in the trade for DK Metcalf as well, right? But he does have over 100,000 followers for what that's worth. Sounds like he covers the Steelers pretty extensively. It says, source, here's the tweet. The Steelers have inquired about Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs. Green Bay drafted 2 wide receivers, and Aaron Rodgers played with Doubs in 2022. It's believed Rodgers likes Doubs. We'll see where this goes. And immediately people go, no. Rodgers hates Doubs. Rodgers never once said he hated Doubs. Rodgers actually said he liked Dobby. He referred to him as Dobby, the only person I heard call him Dobby, right?
Here's the guy.
There's Romeo Doubs who made a comment that they didn't talk much. Okay. And then Aaron Rodgers fired back after that on the McAfee show and said, we literally sat down and ate lunch together several times in the facility. So now I think we can
knowing Rome though, I mean, he doesn't talk much in general.
Yeah.
So it'd be real easy to not talk much, even though you're having lunch with a guy.
And Tim, Romeo didn't come across when he made that comment like, man, I hate Rodgers. He never talks to me. It was just, he helped me a lot. I appreciate what he did here after he left, before he left. He's like, I appreciate what he did for me. We didn't really talk a whole lot, though. It wasn't like we were real close. And immediately the media who hates Aaron Rodgers ran with that, like, man, he's a prick, Romeo Doubs. So anyway, that's what's fueling this latest thing. And I just want to say a couple weeks ago when we got rumors that he was a part of a potential trade offer to the Seahawks for DK Metcalf, guys, that was pretty much all but confirmed to come from Romeo's camp. So they leaked it out that they were shopping him to Seattle. So this is now 2 teams that he's being linked to being shopped to. And then you look at the wide receiver room, which we did a wide receiver room breakdown the other day on our 53-man outlook. And what did we come away with, Jacob? It was like somebody's got to go. And to me, it seems like Romeo Doubs last year of his contract. We'll get into some more of those details there as well. But on the surface, what do you think here? I mean, there's got to be a little fire to that smoke, right?
Well, it's interesting. So in addition to the Andrew Filipponi guy, I was listening to the Athletics football podcast this morning, which means that they at least recorded it yesterday. So they were talking about how Doubs to Pittsburgh just makes sense. It just makes complete sense. And I don't remember if they said that this is based off of, like rumors or hearsay, or if it just logically, I think they even went around saying like, if any team in the NFL needs a wide receiver or they need a safety, you should call the Green Bay Packers. The first call you should make is the Green Bay Packers. And then they started talking about, what about, the possibility of them not liking Wicks, and then even trickled into Reed. And then they both were like, no, it's if all signs point to Romeo Doubs for just so many reasons.
Yeah. Elijah Gwynn says here, Tim, do we know who leaked this one, Rome's camp or Green Bay? I guarantee you Green Bay didn't leak it.
Yeah.
My guess is it's probably Rome's camp again. However, who knows? It could have been someone that Andrew Filipponi has, inside the Pittsburgh.
Is he related to Karen Filippelli? No?
That voicemail, man.
Was her dad a GI?
Oh God!
Such a good show, man.
Yeah,
oh my God, it's so
classic. But you know what though? Like you're saying, Clay, like where there's smoke, there might be fire here, because like you can't tell me that. I mean, Rome playing in Pittsburgh doesn't make sense. I mean, it does. He seems like a Mike Tomlin type of dude, a Steelers type of dude, and we know that if they're courting Aaron Rodgers right now, trying to coax him off the ledge of retirement or whatever it is, we know Aaron likes his guys, right? I mean, look, he brought, half of the Green Bay Packers throwaways to the Jets with him. I could see that, this would be like a selling point to Aaron. Like if they can lock in a trade for Rome and, entice Aaron Rodgers to ultimately sign a contract, having a familiar face there. We already know Aaron has a great relationship with Mike Tomlin. That's no secret. So it looks like it makes sense for Aaron to go to the Steelers if he's going to play ball in 2025. And, looking at the contract here in Green Bay, looking at where we're at in our receiver room, might make sense to shop Rome. Now, I say that to say this. I'd hate to see him go. I've always loved Rome. I think he's a great receiver. But hey, like Jacob said, man, it's a business. And sometimes you got to set those feelings aside and, do what makes the most sense. And honestly, if the trade compensation was right, we're talking like what, a 6th round pick maybe or something.
I heard him saying even a 4th.
Wow. That would be money. 4 or 5 or 6 round pick, maybe even, somebody else involved. Who knows?
Right.
I don't know. Rome gets to go play for a good team. Great for him. Like we love our guys. So, you want to root for a guy no matter what. But at the end of the day, what's best for the Packers might be to get away a year too soon rather than a year too late from a guy like Romeo Doubs, if the trade makes sense. So I think there's a little smoke with the fire here. I don't know.
That's what Soder's asking is, can you get a 4 for Dobbs? I don't know if you could or not, because you always kind of look at the comps across the league. And what was it that George Pickens went to the Cowboys for a 3rd and they got back a 5th or something like that, right?
Yep.
So you got to kind of figure in that differential, and that's the true value. You break that down to what pick that was. The number I'm coming up with, Soder, is like a 6th. Is kind of how I look at it. But it could be more. It could. That's the other thing. Like there were people in the Twitter mentions when I tweeted this out earlier that this guy had, put this on X, and it was like, man, they were saying he was the number 1 receiver on the Packers, and they were mad about it. I'm going, how can you say someone who didn't have the number 1 amount of target rate? I'm talking about even when he's healthy, right? It was Tay Wicks who was getting targeted the most, and then Jaden Reed 2nd, then Romeo Doubs 3rd. And, the reality is whether we agree with it or try to understand what kind of person Romeo Doubs is in terms of he's kind of an introvert. He was suspended for a game, and then he suffered 2 concussions, right? And that's something that comes into factor as well.
And he's entering the last year of his deal, right? A lot of signs pointing to him being on the block, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense. Now, listen, is there a chance that he would come back? Absolutely. There's a chance he could be back in Green Bay, just like there's a chance Jair could be gone. Yep. But it's sounding more and more as we're going to get into that next that Jair's probably going to return to the Green Bay Packers. So, I just think there's a lot that go into it. Now, when you look at the cap ramifications, this might surprise some people here. If you cut ties with Romeo Doubs pre-June 1, well, it's the same across the board. I apologize, but 2025 savings, $3.4 million. That's not chump change. Like, yep. and people go, okay, what? There ain't no players out there to spend that on. Correct, but you understand there's a thing called rollover with the salary cap. So what you don't spend gets rolled into next year. So if you move on from Romeo Doubs because your wide receiver room is full and you don't have room for him, and let's say you get a 6th round pick and you free up $3.4 million that you roll into next year on top of whatever cap you got. I mean, we've been sitting here talking about how we can't afford to pay Rasheed Walker, and not that 3.4 would change that, but every dollar is going to help towards rolling to the future. Yep. And what it comes down to is Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks, right? Those are kind of your top 2 returning receivers, with Christian Watson being on IR. Obviously, Christian would be right there at the top as well. So Matthew Golden, in my opinion, soars right to the top, if not second, right behind Jaden Reed. And then you got Savion Williams, who might potentially be better than Dontavion Wicks. You just got 2 guys that most likely would pass Romeo Doubs up at least by year 2 on the depth chart. And now you've gotten something for him and wrote a little cap over. So to me, it makes a lot of sense to move on from Rome. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good receiver. I just don't see him as a true number 1 receiver. Like some people in my mentions, they blew my – I don't know why I always say that. Like I'm surprised that people on Twitter surprise me. But
what about Rome for TJ Watt straight up? No
Hey,
pick.
that sounds like a winner right there, don't it? Yeah, that's the other thing. People immediately shifted to that, like, hey, well, maybe we could throw in a pick and Rome and get TJ Watt. I don't like the idea of getting TJ Watt simply because, I mean, it's like, okay, if you do that, then what happens? LVN gets pushed to the back, right? And we don't truly get to see what we have there as a starter. Also, Baron Sorrell, that's going to stunt his growth. TJ Watt is going to cost a ton of money.
You're gonna
And
block Cox.
if I remember correctly, NFL Pro, and you guys know I choose NFL Pro over every analytic when it comes to pressure rate and stuff like that. I want to say TJ Watt finished at 10% pressure rate last year. Last I checked, that's where he was at, which that's what cracks me up is because Rashawn Gary finished at 13%, right? And that's not to say TJ Watt's a bad player, but he has battled injuries. And when he's on, he is the defensive player of the year in the NFL, like almost always right there in the top 3, right?
Yep.
But getting up there in age on 30, and we just talked about rolling $3.4 million in cap into next year. Well, if you bring on TJ Watt and he's eating up $25 million in cap, now you're in the net negative, right? So it's like, I'm not saying I would not want TJ Watt. I'm just simply saying it's not as big of a slam dunk as I think most people see it as. But anything else you want to add to this Romeo Doubs talk here, Jacob?
Nah, I mean, I don't know. I just to me, it just all signs are pointing to that's the most likely situation. No need to get back into it, but yeah, I think it's, if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say 60-40 that he's not around.
Right. And it kind of feels like the Jair conversation is flipped, where it's like 60-40. He'll be back now, right? It's amazing how it's changed all offseason. Chris the Casual Win says, you guys produce a quality show. Hey, not bad for a redneck and a couple Scotties, right? Not bad at all. Bad